Thank you for your attention. So Dr. Saab is starting. So you can continue, with the refreshment. But maybe when you're done, you can start steering back to your seats. Dr. Saab, Bismillah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The second part of this exercise that we are doing today, as I said, has to do with the application of the principle that we have talked about. The important principle that we have understood is that the message of God is primarily focused at achieving tazkiyah, purification and progress in the domain of morality and in the domain of spirituality. Now, when we know that this is what the ultimate goal is, we should always be concerned, watchful as to whether when we are following our religion, is it actually getting achieved or not? How do we know? Honest to God, there is a moral compass inside all of us. There is a conscience that pricks. There is a voice that speaks and tells us as to whether we are doing enough or not. It is not quite as much the number of items that we are able to take off and do as the goal that needs to be achieved through those items, those practices that should concern us. In other words, no matter whatever I do in religion, whether I read the Quran, I say my prayers, or do anything, the one important question that should always bother me is that is it helping me in attaining the ultimate objective of tazkiyah? Is it doing enough? It's a feeling. It's a realization, it's a criterion, it's a gauge, it's either happening or not happening. I mean, if I'm saying my prayers regularly, but I'm also equally regularly telling lies, then there's something seriously wrong. It's not happening. What was meant to be achieved is not getting it. I'm not getting it. So that's one thing that I need, that we should all talk about. How to get do we get a feeling of tazkiyah? Well, there is a feeling of spiritual contentment, and there is an understanding of you being more and more morally upright. You don't have to boast off, you don't have to brag, but you do have to have an inner realization that I'm glad that I didn't cheat. I'm glad that I helped somebody out, and so on and so forth. So that is one point that I would want to mention and would want it to be a talking point. We should discuss it. The other thing is that our beliefs and ibadat should lead to tazkiyah. I believe in God. I believe in the hereafter. I believe in the prophets. It's not just mere concepts. It's not just a few things that we mention and repeat over and over again to just satisfy ourselves. It really has to be strongly linked with the ultimate objective. If I am, as I said, saying my prayers, it should lead to my tazkiyah. If I'm fasting, it should lead to my tazkiyah. If I'm helping out others through charity, it should lead to my tazkiyah. Hajj should lead to my tazkiyah. Belief in God should lead to my tazkiyah. Belief in the hereafter, and so on and so forth. So, whatever elements of religion that we are understanding, getting attached to and following, they should all help in achieving the ultimate goal. That's what we should be worried about. That's what we should talk about. Honest to God, everything else is secondary. We are able to achieve it. We will find that it's not only giving us contentment, it is also enabling others to be attracted towards it. And now I move on to the other part. There is this concept of tazkiyah that has got to do with knowledge. Tazkiyah in learning. When you are learning, what exactly are you doing? Are you learning in the right manner? If you have had your tazkiyah done and you are learning, let's say learning your religion, you cannot be biased. You cannot follow an individual or a group blindly. After all, what are you doing when you are learning religion? Are you not after knowing the truth? If your tazkiyah has been done, you are aware of the fact that God knows what you're doing, and you simply cannot exaggerate. You simply cannot mention about the virtues of one individual or a scholar beyond limits to the detriment and exclusion of others. So, when you are learning, you've got to be morally upright. There are some people who do not belong to our school of thought. There's some people who don't belong to our religion. There's some people who are different from us. If our tazkiyah has been properly done, we will not be prejudiced. We will always be open to the truth. We will not be arrogant. You see, there is an element of arrogance that creeps in when you become religious at times. You stop listening to others. You look down upon others. That is completely the opposite of tazkiyah. You see, if you are morally upright, if you are aware of the presence of God, if you're close to Him, then when you are learning, your learning has got to be the learning of an individual who is open-minded, who wants to learn from everywhere. He is after seeking the truth. He simply cannot afford to be stuck to one understanding, to be inflexible, and to just keep repeating things just for the sake of it. You belong to a certain group and you say that now I'm okay. It's just having crutches to stand on. It's not real learning. So the test of tazkiyah is quite often to be found in the manner we learn and in the sources that we learn from. So that is also really where we should focus our attention on. And last but not the least, tazkiyah is gauged in our dealings with others, in our muamalat, when we are in our family, dealing with others, our spouses, children, siblings and others. Oh goodness me, our tazkiyah is tested the most while we are operating as a member of a family. Quite often we are called upon to make judgments, to form opinions. And if we are properly following religion, we'll be fair, we will be concerned, we will not be one-sided, we will not exaggerate, we will not be prejudiced, we will not hide anything which is to be given to others to learn about, and so on. So, if you are a good religious person, you've got to be the best human. I mean, religion has come to make you an even better human than others, because the human aspect, the natural aspect of morality is what is already ingrained in you. Religion, God's message, has come to make sure that you acknowledge, you recognize it, and then you strengthen it still further through the support system of beliefs. And then if there are any confusions, you've got your Sharia. It really is going to be a huge tragedy that if in the name of Sharia we are fighting with each other over petty matters. And what is happening is that we are not even aware of the fact that we are telling lies, we are backbiting, we are looking down upon others, we are arrogantly behaving. It's going to be a complete collapse of the real purpose of religion if that is happening. So it really needs to be realized that if the purpose is tazkiyah, if it is not tazkiyah, if religion is meant to give you an understanding which is going to be ultimately a certificate for you to enter the paradise, no matter whatever you do, then of course what I'm talking is all nonsense. But if that's not true, and indeed it's not true, religion has come to give you not a certificate, but a way to achieve tazkiyah, to purify yourself and to become morally upright and spiritually strong. Then no matter whatever you do, you will be concerned about this matter, objective, goal more than anything else. And of course this is tested in the manner we behave with others. You are living in this country, you have agreed to abide by certain laws. If you are dodging the system, if you are bluffing the officials, well, you are doing anything but not following religion. You have not understood the purpose of religion. you are violating the promise that you've made to the system. The Prophet, may God's mercy be on him, is reported to have said, La dina limalla ahda lahu. The one who is not abiding by the promises that he has made has got no religion. La imana limalla amanata lahu. The one who doesn't take care of the amanat of others, is not trustworthy, has no faith. Why? Because that is what the ultimate purpose of religion is. How on earth can it be possible that a person who is on the one hand religious and is on the other hand thirsty of the blood of others, is after the lives of others, is after destroying others, their property, their reputation, and all the time involved in bickering, fighting. So the ultimate purpose of religion being tazkiyah really means that we get refined, improved as humans. And all the time, no matter whatever religious activity or concept that we get attached to, we must try to ensure as best as is possible that is that ultimate objective getting achieved. It is as if you are operating a machine and you've been informed that there is a light that is going to glow and it's going to give you an understanding as to whether you are operating it correctly or not. And the brighter it glows, the more effective you are in using it. So, you should always focus your attention on the brightness of the light. And that is what we must do. And that is what the purpose of this particular discussion and all the subsequent ones is going to be. There's some people who actually disagreed with what I'm doing. And of course, they have every right to do it. And I welcome their criticism. They said that it's actually overemphasis on tazkiyah. Well, what I have to say humbly is that religion is all about tazkiyah. You cannot exaggerate tazkiyah. I mean, that is what the ultimate purpose is. And let's face it, we all want to enter the paradise. And the fact of the matter is that let's not fool ourselves. It is only through tazkiyah that we are going to be declared eligible. So how is it possible that we set aside, ignore the most important element of religion and talk about things which are just academic, intellectual? I don't even know that, when I'm going to discuss them, whether it's going to help me in achieving tazkiyah or not. But yes, I want to get engaged in religious discussion and debate so as to be able to achieve that ultimate objective. So no matter whether you do one thing or the other, if you are within the domain of religion, be absolutely sure that that is what your ultimate objective should be. And that would enable us to help each other in improving as humans, in improving as people dealing with other humans, and as people who are, of course, in contact with God. So, as I said, what I'm opening for discussion, the 4 points that I mentioned, that, no matter whatever we do, we should be actually looking for the ultimate objective as to whether it's getting achieved or not. And of course, our beliefs and ibadat are an important part of religion, and we should always worry about the fact that they are actually helping us in achieving the objective. And let's face it, when we are learning, we should be learning in a way that is reflecting the reality that the person has done his tazkiyah, and therefore he's got no bias, no prejudice, no cheating, no lying, no concealing of truth, no exaggeration, nothing. And you will learn and you will improve. And last but not the least, while dealing with other fellow humans, our tazkiyah should reflect our behavior. And in actual fact, I tell you the truth, forget about everything else. When you are dealing with fellow humans, it actually would give you a clear understanding as to whether you are truly understanding and following religion or not. Whatever else you are doing would be irrelevant if your attitude with fellow humans, your muamalat, are not reflecting the attitude and behavior of a person who has actually been, let me call it, tazkiyah-fied. So let's talk about it.
Doctor, is there a way to achieve tazkiyah through other religions? I mean, is there a path? And secondly, within Islam, you mentioned the term ijma. Those people who are not on ijma, they also have a part to tazkiyah, or the tazkiyah is only through the hikmah of the Prophet in the Islamic religion and in the ijma, in the following religion?
You see, for one thing, no matter whatever objectives we try to achieve in religion, there is an ideal, and there are other cases, possibilities which are less than ideal in their, let's say, worldly, the worldly reflection of them, expression of them. At the end of the day, it's all going to be based on our performance relative to our opportunities. So, if a person was born a Muslim and was given the opportunity to avail the understanding of Islam, the proper guidance, he will be expected to achieve a higher level of tazkiyah. And there are others who will be questioned on the basis of what they knew. In other words, what God has informed us is that the ultimate objective is tazkiyah. You have to achieve it through the tools that are available to you. And if a person is trying to behave in a religiously correct manner, but has not been properly and fully informed, of course, an important question that is going to be asked: is it his fault? Did he learn about religion, the proper religion, and he rejected it knowingly? Of course, that is going to be something that he'll have to account for. Likewise, when you're talking about other religions, I'm sure that most religious traditions, whether they clearly mention it or not, they all want their followers to achieve better humanity, human values, and better contact with God. Now, obviously, the message, according to our understanding, is less than ideal. There are faults, there are problems. So we have been privileged with a message which is perfect from God. It is preserved. Therefore, expectations from us should be higher. All others are expected to follow as best as they can what they think is true. However, let's not forget about the fact that whether they knew the ultimate truth or not is something which God is going to decide. And of course, it's a part of tazkiyah. There's one more thing that is very, very important to realize. I believe in the Quran, therefore I believe in God's message which has been fully preserved. That is a statement. What am I doing? What exactly is it that my belief in the Quran is inclining me to do? So, that attitude, that behavior is what is going to ultimately decide as to whether a person performed successfully or not.
I just want to remind you that tazkiyah is important for guys as well as for girls. So we are not getting many questions. Maybe,
they've already tazkiyah fight.
Maybe we want to ask them twice and look carefully for the hand being raised. So we take 2 questions from ladies and then one from gents. And let's, everybody should participate. So let's see if somebody's asking the question first time, we should give the opportunity to that person. So we start with you. Go ahead, please.
Alaikum salam.
There's a verse in the Quran emphasize the point that earlier in the second you mentioned about Yahud wa Nasara. Yahud wa Nasara la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. That's mentioned in the Quran. So, most, not all Muslims have that battle between Christians, Jews, and we don't have a very good understanding that they have a level in the Quran that God is telling them, La yahzanun, so they should be rewarded in Judgment Day. For the time that they lived in following of the Prophet at that time, Musa alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam. So is it right to kafir all those people, and we don't know their intention, we don't know how they follow, we don't know what they believe, and are they following it right? Some people say they say the Son of God, but they don't mean the word Son. It's just a representative for God. So I've been in contact with Christians and trying to understand telling them that Islam refuses that there is a son of God or that Jesus is God. And the same thing with Jews. And some of them have a different understanding, so, and then I go back to the Quran, and Yahud al-Nasara, la khawfun alayhim wa hum yahzanun. So there must be a reason that we just don't understand.
Sorry, Dr. Saab, just want to remind you that question cannot be heard properly by our 20 online.
Yeah, when I'm going to repeat this question, the sister will have a serious reservation as to whether I have honestly reflected what she's. Well, what she's primarily asking, I think, is that the Quran mentions about the fact that Jews and Christians will also get a privilege wherein they'll have no fear of the future and no sorrows of the past. There are people who say that they believe Jesus to be the Son of God, but she says that I have talked to some of them. They have an explanation which is somewhat different from what we understand. And given the fact that they are also seriously taking their religion, and the Quran is talking positively about them as well, there has to be a reason. Yes, sister, I do tend to agree with you. I think, let's distinguish between two things. For one thing, let me clarify. You mentioned the word kufr. My understanding is, and you can always disagree with me, we have no business whatsoever to declare anyone a kafir. Anyone, except the people whom God himself has declared as kafirs. Pharaoh was a kafir, Abu Jahl was a kafir, Abu Lahab was a kafir, and the people who rejected the Prophet, may God's mercy be on him, and the messengers of God, when they delivered the message clearly to them, they knew what the truth was, and then they rejected. All that we can discuss is that there are some people who are non-Muslims. And we can also discuss that there are some concepts which are wrong. God is merciful, God is wise, God is fair. He is going to deal with each and every human on the basis of his or her performance. It's going to be pure merit. One of the huge problems, crimes that some of us Muslims have committed is that we are creating an impression that, God forbid, God is going to be unfair. No, he's not going to be unfair. He's going to be absolutely fair. He says in the Quran, وَمَا أَنَا بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ, I am not going to be unfair to my servants by even the slightest of margins. Yes, we will say that ascribing partners with God is shirk. We will call a spade. But we will not reject people who have a peculiar understanding simply because they ascribe to that understanding. We'll help them understand. We'll disagree with them. We'll give them arguments. We will respond to their questions. And, we will say to them that yes, indeed, the Quran does mention about the Jews and the Christians, and إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَالَّذِينَ هَادُوا وَالنَّصَارَى وَالصَّابِئِينَ and the Sabi'un. Man amana billahi wal yawmil akhir wa amila salihah. Whoever believed in God and the hereafter and did good deeds, falahum ajruhum inda rabbihim, for them there is going to be a reward before their Lord. Wala khawfun alayhim wala hum yahzanun. They will have no fear of the future nor any sorrows of the past. This description is actually the description of the paradise. Now, there are people who are quite often confused. How is it that on the one hand, the Quran says that believing that God has a son is a shirk, and shirk is as huge a crime as no other crime is, and nobody who commits shirk is going to be pardoned. People forget the fact that for one thing, God is going to decide on the basis of who knew what and what exactly was the understanding, how much a person was informed. I agree with you. I had my own experiences when I've talked to some Christians. I remember that one of my teachers, I talked to him and he said that when I say that Jesus is the Son of God, my belief is that Jesus is God's favorite. The word son has been used metaphorically. And he said that I believe that most of the educated Christians have the same understanding. What he also said was that the people who believe that Jesus was literally the Son of God, they've got no basis. So I don't know. Why should I start blaming individuals? Why should I start accusing people of having one wrong belief or the other? Yes, I will describe as a wrong concept as wrong, wisely, with arguments. And of course, the fact that the Quran has actually given a good news of the paradise to some of the Jews and some of the Christians in itself is clearly mentioned, is clearly reflecting the fact that if you believe in God properly and you come across the truth from God, it is not possible for you to reject it. You know, it's like saying that you believe that that there is a certain king and he has command over a certain area, and he sends a representative, and you're absolutely sure that the representative has come from him, and you say that I don't care, I'm not going to bother talking to you. It's not possible. There's something wrong. You're not fully aware of it, that the representative has come from the king. So, you know, the ultimate decision of who is going to be judged in what manner and what is going to be the outcome rests with God. Let us not bother about it. Let us be concerned about our own understanding of religion, and let it be as pure and proper as possible, and let's invite others to understand our concepts on the basis of the arguments that we present, and allow others to disagree and dispute. Don't accuse others of being criminals.
So we stick with the legal. Let's see, we have another question. Ask a question so that we get a license to ask our question, you know.
Because it came from a sister, I actually answered it twice as long, you know, as I've answered the brothers.
So what about equality?
They are always asking difficult questions.
Yeah.
Going back to the beginning of life, an understanding of when Allah created Adam, he mentioned to the angels that but the reason of this whole life is that there is going to be the good and evil, and examples that Allah showed us in the Quran, also with the prophets and their sons not following. So just making that an understanding for all Muslims that there will be, you know, the evil, there will be the good, but how are we going to deal with it? And going back to the fear, we want to be a good example, not cuffing everybody around us, making them look bad. If we be a good example, then I think we should help, spread Islam in the proper way that we want everybody to follow.
Absolutely. You see, I've mentioned it before and I repeat, a kafir is a person who rejects the truth coming from God, knowing it to be from God. Now, we have no way to know whether a person who is a non-Muslim knows that the message of Islam is from God or not. It is only God who can decide. Our job is to understand God's message, the one that we have acknowledged to be from Him, as best as we can, and follow it, and invite others politely. Those people who are declaring others as kafir have got no justification whatsoever, and they should worry about themselves when they make that statement, because actually they are taking the position of God. It's only God who has the prerogative to declare a person a kafir or not. And I keep telling our Muslim brothers and sisters, be absolutely sure that the Quran is very clear about the fact that some Muslims are also going to turn out to be kafirs. Munafiq used to be Muslims. They would recite the kalama, and the Quran says that they are going to be lafid darkil asfali minan nar, the lowest part of the hell. The Quran tells us that if you know what the message of God is and you refuse to take it seriously, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Such are the people who are kafir. So I'm not too sure about non-Muslims, honest to God, but I'm more worried about myself and my fellow believers, because kafir is a category of humans who know, who acknowledge, who have an understanding as to what has come from God. And despite that, they just simply spurn it, reject it. They're just not bothered. So let's be a little more careful in using this expression.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. So I think my question, I think it's a very good statement that you're making, the way you're explaining the tazkiyah, converting from a fazail to a becoming a better human being. And I think it's more a comment. The way we've been brought up, right, this is a temporary word that you have to go somewhere else. So we think that if we are a better Muslim, we don't have to be a better human. I think that's the distinction, that everything that we bring it in, religion into the matter of faith. If the Women are not driving in Saudi Arabia, something to do with the religion. If Saudi is attacking the Yemen, it's something to do with religion. We take away that human factor that, the test that God has created. This is the testing ground. This is what you have to go through in order to get there. And human factor is very important. So I think the tazkiyah litmus test, or the yardstick that you're giving is very important. Is it making you a human being, a better human being or not? That will be
I think it really might help in doing a soul-searching exercise to find out whether we are doing it right or not. But I think there's one point that you just mentioned at the beginning of your statement, which is also a very important concept to understand. I have a feeling that the emphasis of religion, our religion on tazkiyah, has been ignored because there is another concept that has taken over. You see, a concept doesn't disappear without reason. There's something else that replaces. And that concept is the concept of fazail, rewards. You get an understanding that if you're going to pray so much of prayers, you will get so much of reward. If you're going to do this thing, you'll get so much of reward. So reward is what is at the back of your mind. And where is tazkiyah? It's gone. You know why? Because instead of your tazkiyah, you are concerned about the number of points that you're going to score. You recite this and you'll get this much of rewards. Forget about whether I told a lie or not. Doesn't matter. I'm getting rewards. At the end of the day, after all, what is going to happen? It's going to be a balance. Good deeds, evil deeds. What are evil deeds? Telling lies, bluffing, hurting others. What are good deeds? Salat, zakat, reciting the Quran. My good deeds, alhamdulillah, are so weighty, so strong, they're going to destroy these evil deeds. And this is the concept, sadly. Honest to God, this is what a religious Muslim is normally confronted with. It is a serious misunderstanding. You know why? Whenever the Prophet, may God's mercy be on him, has mentioned a reward, it is implied that the prayer that you are praying is a proper prayer. It is loaded with its spirit. You are doing it for the right purpose. No reward is going to be given for no reason. When the Quran says, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, curse be on those who are saying their prayers, الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ sahun, who are unaware of the spirit of their prayer. الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاهُونَ, they're showing off. وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ, have you ever focused